I was called by my regular employer, "Would you like to go and move to Shanghai, China on a to work on a project? It's probably gonna take about a year for to do that." And I was like, uh at first, I was like, "Nah, I don't know." Things happened. I wouldn't say another midlife crisis, but things were going on with my mother and her new friend that I wasn't so happy with, and it just things were just going in this weird direction. I'm like, "Oh, man." I picked up my stuff, put it all in a storage facility, and off I went. Moved to China, was there for about 7 yeah, about 7 months, 7, 8 months. The next part of the story is when I mentioned that spirit will give you messages as a medium or a psychic, especially as a medium. If a spirits know who you are. If you're a medium and you're sensitive, they know who you are. They know that you're a sensitive. They know that you are a channel between this side and their side. And I had received an unsolicited contact message from an old Chinese woman sitting in a restaurant, and we were all getting ready to leave the restaurant, and I'm sitting there at the end of the table, and suddenly I just get basically it was felt more like a channel. Suddenly got thrown into this altered state of consciousness, and I could see this old Chinese woman, long hair pulled off to the back, large glasses, and she's showing me this book, this big book, and she's opening the book, and she's all adamant about this, just pointing at these pages, and it felt like it almost felt like the time that was going by was like an eternity. Like I popped out of this time and kind of melded with her, with that energy through the veil, and I got back into consciousness. And a friend of mine that was sitting catty corner to me on my left, he's he's looking at me. He's, "What just happened? Are you okay?" And I told him, I was like, you're not going to believe what happened." And then I told him, he's like, "No, yeah, to do it." He's like, "Do it." Basically, it was she was giving me a message to give to somebody there in the restaurant. And at first, I was like, "Who is it?" And then I asked her, and it was our server. And the I'm like, "How am I gonna say this?" Is granted, this is the first time I've ever had this type of message. Normally, my messages are from the living to those who have passed, not the other way around. And now the decorum, there's a lot of do's and don'ts in mediumship. You just can't just give messages without permission. So I'm like, okay. So before as everybody's paying their tab and stuff and paying their bill, she comes up to the table, and luckily she spoke fairly decent English. I introduced myself and told her what I did or what I can do. And I'm like, You understand? I have a message from spirit I'd like to give to you. Um, would you like the message?" And she nodded. She said, "Yeah." And stopped for a moment, and I mentioned, like, "Your grandmother's coming through, and she's telling me you need to go back to school. You need to stop what you're doing, and you need to go back to school." Because these messages, this book was data, was information, knowledge. Now, even though using that symbol, that's the symbol of the book, that was inherently using the claircognizance, I knew that book represented school, information, go and get educated, go back, finish it up. And as I delivered that information, she was like looking like, at first I didn't know how to, I was kinda like looking at her pantomimes to see if she was picking, knowing what I was understanding. And she seemed to be a little distraught, didn't know what to make of it. And she grabbed the rest of her tab. She left. As we were leaving, getting ready to leave the restaurant, she stopped me. I turned around and she was crying. And she's like, "Thank you. Thank you. Yes. My grandmother just passed away like 3 or 4 weeks ago." And I don't know what happened. Whether she went back to school or whatnot, but it was confirmed that her grandmother was quite adamant on her finishing up school and for her to go back and get her degrees, get her work done, stuff like that. And I feel moments like that, that's not random. That is not a random thing. When you look at, okay, I'm an American. I'm in Shanghai, in the middle of one of the largest cities of in the world, and give a message from spirit to the living to an individual. They receive it and do whatever they want with it. Let's just say she does go back to school. But what if I wasn't there? What if I never did deliver that message? What if I held that back? I could have changed the life of an individual. You could be somewhere else. You don't know. That that is I feel that's a very divine message that you change someone's life for the better. And I feel that all of us as human beings, whether you're a medium or not, we all have that inherent intuitive side. If we ask somebody, like someone who's not intuitive or doesn't recognize it, a skeptic on it, if someone always has that intuitive side, we give somebody, like, I believe you should do this because I feel you should do this. This is what I'm getting. That's a divine message. That's an intuitive or higher self message. Those are not random. Spirit is with us all the time. No, not all the time, but most of the time when we need it. And we're all helping each other. And yeah, we're all helping each other move through this path, move through this ether, this field that we call life or the third dimension. And yeah, that's the only time that particular thing has happened. But if it's needed, if the universe needs it, there's an angel up there, if there's some spirit up there, ancestors from with somebody that needs somebody to deliver something, it'll happen. It'll happen.